like a Hellcat.
Welcome back, guys. So let's get into the actual HTML. We're going to be learning about tags. So again, a tag is like this, and then also the closing version. And the closing tag is just the exact same as the opening tag, but it's preceded by this little /. So just remember that. So we're going to be talking about, I'm just going to make the body of the document a little bigger so that we can actually write in this. And also, in HTML documents, if you skip a bunch of lines and write something here and then here, when you load it in the browser, it's not going to do that. It's going to show them on the same line. So let's write that. And then way down here, let's write world. And I'm going to save it and refresh. And as you can see, it says hello world. If you don't believe me because that's what it said before, maybe it didn't save, I'm going to write hello Nick. And there you go. So there are ways to break lines, and one of the easiest ones, and probably the one you're going to use most, is a div element. So a div element, you open it like that, and you close it like that. And then you can type stuff in here. So let's say, hello, this is a div, and save it. And let's refresh. And you see that that appears in the same way. But now, if I go and put another div element under it, say this is a different div, or div-rent, like what I did there. All right. I just accidentally zoomed in, which is another point. You guys are going to need me to zoom in. What is this? Control-Shift-Equal. I think that's good. Yeah, so basically when I do these courses, I have a 1080p screen, and some of you may not. And so trying to read high-resolution text on a lower resolution screen is very painful. So I apologize that I completely forgot that up until now, but now it's bigger. So anyway, when we save this and refresh, you're going to see that it did do a line break. And that's because div elements, by default, are full width, which means if you put another div, it can't go anymore on this line, so it has to appear under it. So that is what a div element is. It's called a block element. So in HTML and CSS, what block element means is that it is however tall it needs to be, or however tall you specify it, and then it's the full width. That's what block means. The opposite of a block element is an inline element. And it is not full width. It is only as tall and as wide as it has to be. And that is called a span element. This is inline. So, yeah. So, if I type, hello, how are, and then drop down a few lines, you. So see what I've done there is I've created two span elements that look, it reads as though it should be only one line. And if I refresh, you will see that it is only one line. And that's because this is one span element. It's only as wide as it needs to be. And then this is the other one. Let me open up Developer Tools. This is something else that you guys are going to have to know. Control-Shift-I brings up Developer Tools. This is what we need. So let's look at a few things. When I hover over things in Developer Tools here, this kind of highlights the elements on the screen. So as you can see, the body element is full width and full height. And in the bottom left, if you look at the bottom left of my browser, I'm not sure if you can see that, it says the exact width and height in pixels. So that's neat if you need to know that. Now, in Chrome, the element's width and height, the actual size of the element, is shown in blue. Margin, which specifies how much outside room there is to each element, is orange, and then padding is green. We'll get into all that after. That's going to be more into the CSS. You guys will see that before So let's drop down into the body, and you can expand each tag here within Developer Tools. And what I'm going to do is hover over each of these things and look how it's highlighted. You can see that this now is the full width. Now, there is space to the top and the sides of it, and that's about 10 pixels because the body has a margin of 10 pixels. So this element is contained within this. This cannot be the entire width of the page itself. It can only be the entire width of its parent. So div elements look like this. They are full width of their container parent, and then span elements, in contrast, look like this. They are only as wide as they need to be. And that's why div elements will show on different lines, and span elements will show on the same line unless you tell it not to. And that's also CSS, and we're going to be getting to that as well, but not right now. So again, div elements are full width, span elements are only as wide as they need to be. And there are other differences, and we will get to those as well. But for the most part, this is the main difference between the two. And admittedly, these are going to be the two elements that you use most in creating a web page, but we're not going to use them exclusively. There is a name for that. When you open up a website and all you see are div elements, that's called div soup. And that problem has been solved with HTML5 and the introduction of new elements that we can use instead of div elements. And we're going to be discussing a lot of those as well. And I'll point those out as we get to them. So again, just to recap, you build an element by opening and closing it, and then the content that you put within it is part of that element. The entire element is that right. Like a Hellcat.